Curious about what it takes to leave a high-paying job for a more fulfilling career path? In today's video, I'm sharing why I walked away from $500,000 per year and the lessons you can learn from my journey. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Erin and I'm 47 years old. I'm a former tech executive who walked away because I just couldn't do it anymore. I loved my team, the work, the direction of the company, but as each day passed, it felt wrong. It felt like something was really, really wrong. And I realized success isn't just about the paycheck. It's about feeling fulfilled and aligned to your values. Over the years, I had been rising through the ranks and eventually became a VP. And I was often asked what was next in terms of my career. And I couldn't really answer. I didn't really have the answer anymore. I'd reached a point where I just wasn't sure. And it wasn't because I lacked ambition or motivation. Rather, I started to wonder, is this it? Is this all there is? Do I just keep going to the next thing and the next thing? And I started to wonder how else I could add value into the world beyond just being one employee in one company doing one great thing. There was a second factor, a little bit related to the first. I had this vision of taking myself and my husband and our 3 kids abroad for the summer. We live in the US and I just thought, right now, while they're still young and open to the world and the possibilities, I would love for them to live in another country and experience day-to-day life of what it's like to be in an entirely different culture. I wanted them to step away from all of the things that are very culturally common where we're at and experience something entirely different so that they would have more than one perspective of this world. I wanted a significant part of that time away to be in some tiny little village of a few hundred or 1,000 people, where we would just live a village life and the ins and outs, and not having our giant American fridge and our big screen TVs and the grocery store right around the corner. And would just hop in the car. I wanted it to be not difficult per se, but I wanted them to feel completely out of their element, and I felt that I needed to get completely out of my element so I could maybe reappreciate all of the things that I had. Immersing ourselves in nature, taking a break from the constant digital world was really an important part in thinking that this would be a good idea. So I looked into leave policies at work, and while the European and other parts of the world, those policies are really good, in the US they weren't great. It wasn't realistic for me to take a full month off without stacking an enormous amount of work up front, and when I got back and kind of having work a bit on my mind while we were away. I needed a real true break. This desire for a different lifestyle, albeit temporarily, and the need for a genuine break weighed heavily on my mind. After a very successful week with my team and a bunch of colleagues doing workshops and events south of London, we were on that train headed back, and it was well into the evening, and we were out of energy, if you will, and just relaxed. And so I thought I would take a peek at my phone and look at my personal email, which I'd been neglecting for the whole week. And there was an email from my son's school asking to have a conversation. They wanted to discuss some recent challenges that he was facing at school and how we could work together to help him finish 8th grade successfully. Now, I haven't really shared this before, but my son is neurodiverse and he requires significant help in order to have academic success. He's incredibly bright and talented, and I want to be there for him. The school expressed concern that he needed better habits and routine in order to finish the year successfully and be set up for success in high school the following fall. In that moment, I realized that I was so invested in my work and the joy that it brought me, I didn't have the headspace to focus on him every day after school in the way he would need me most during those next couple of months. I realized that if I didn't have the headspace to focus on helping him in an appropriate way over the next 2 months, his chances of successfully transitioning to high school and subsequently a 4-year college would be at risk. This was not an exaggeration. At that moment, I decided my choice to keep working or to focus on my son would deeply affect his future. And I headed home, and I thought about it on the flight home, and I thought about it over the weekend. First thing in the morning, I had a conversation with my boss. I expressed not only my decision to leave, but also the urgency behind it. And in 4 weeks, I was wrapped up and focused on my son. It was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made in my life, but I knew that it was aligned to my values and that it would be worth it, and that it was the right one for my family. Through this journey, I learned several lessons that I hope will resonate with you. Lesson number 1. Align your career with your values. Identify your core values and see how they align with your current job. Are you fulfilled? Now, in my case, I was fulfilled for many, many years, and then I wasn't. And it didn't have to do with anything other than I'd been doing it for a long time. I wanted some time off, and I wasn't sure what was next for me. And then there were the compounding forces of my personal life. Things were in line value-wise for me for a long time. They were slowly getting out of line because my values were changing, if that makes sense. So even if your values are aligned today, keep stock on those, because I think our values change over time. For example, family is incredibly important to me now, whereas before, when I didn't have kids, that wasn't even on my plate of values. So small example, but it can change over time, and the things that are important to you when you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 80s can change. Prioritize your well-being. It's really important that you protect your mental and your physical health while having a great career, because at some point your mental and your physical health are going to be the thing that sees you through some very rough times in your career. And if you haven't had those rough times yet, they're coming, believe me, because if you are pushing yourself and your skill set and the things that you're trying to accomplish from a career perspective, the good that you're trying to put out in the world and make an impact from that career lens, your mental and your physical health have got to be top notch. And when they start to suffer, it makes it very difficult to shine in your career. Embrace change. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. Oftentimes, it's those bold moves that are the great ones at the end of the day. And I've learned that over and over and over again throughout my career. Growth often comes from taking bold steps, so don't let the fear of change get in the way. Try to embrace it. Try to find small ways to make yourself uncomfortable or do things that cause small bits of change in your life so that you can get a little bit more used to it. This next one is evaluate risks. And you want to evaluate the risks in your life so that when it comes time to pivot or maybe take a risk or something like that, you're pretty well aware of the risks and whether or not you're willing to take them, because everything in our life is a tension between doing safe things and doing risky things. No job is really that safe or that stable from day to day or year to year. Getting yourself in this mindset is going to set you up for being able to take the lumps and having the resilience as things come up in your life and in your career. And finally, if I leave you with nothing else, find balance. It's not just about your personal life or your family, or it's not just about your career and climbing the ladder. It's really, really important to find balance. And for most of my career, not always, but for most of my career, I had balance. And even when I was contemplating how to take a month off and how to help my son and be more present and all of those things, I still had a fair level of balance. I still managed to go to the gym a few days a week. I still managed to make dinner or help with dinner if my husband wasn't on dinner duty most night, taking kids to sports activities and all of that. I still found a way to have both. The reason that I shared this story earlier about my son is because I needed to kind of give a level of intensity to that for a short period of time. And I just needed to pause all the other peripheral things so that I had the energy to devote and dedicate and make that impact. Let's close out with this. If you're at a career crossroads, or you're not feeling entirely fulfilled, or you're feeling your values aren't perfectly in alignment, reflect on these points, these 5 lessons, and take steps. It doesn't all have to be today. It doesn't all have to be tomorrow, but start today and start taking steps so that your career aligns with your values and what matters to you, and you'll end up in a place where you're much more fulfilled. If you found this video helpful, I'd love a thumbs up. Leave a comment with your experiences or your questions. Until next time, take care and stay true to yourself.